Alright guys, I'm on a walk with my dog in my neighborhood, and as you can see behind us, the irises are blooming. And when the irises are blooming, like I've said in previous videos, that means that it is time to plant our more tender vegetables like tomatoes and peppers. So I'm going to meet Miss Susie in the Lincoln Garden, and we're going to show you how to plant some tomatoes and peppers. So if you live in some of the higher elevations in our area, your irises might look like this still. Not quite blooming, but budding. And you know when they do bloom that it's time to plant your tender vegetables like tomatoes and peppers. So this is another reason I like to use phenology instead of just the calendar to plant things. In our Prescott area we have a lot of microclimates, which are little pockets of biomes and special regions where the weather might be different. So if you go up into the mountains, it's much cooler, much later in the season than if you're down in the valleys of Prescott. So it's nice to watch the signs in nature in your area to know exactly when it's good to plant things. So we know when the irises are blooming, we know that the soil is warm enough for the tender vegetables. We especially want to be watching for bearded irises blooming. A bearded iris has a fuzzy patch on the falls petal. Okay, enough introduction. Let's get planting. But please note that all PUSD campuses are closed to the public. Miss Susie and I had a special permission to be on the Lincoln campus to maintain the garden and film. And we're being very careful about our hygiene and staying 6 feet apart. Our bed is all ready. This is the bed that we fertilized and prepped last week. And we're gonna start digging our planting holes. So you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomato plants. This guy right here is a green zebra. Oh, they're so good. They're green and yellow tomatoes. All right, so we're going to dig a planting hole in our nice moist and fertilized bed. And I dig my planting hole pretty deep for tomatoes. And I'll tell you why. Because tomatoes are pretty special in that if you plant them deep and if you bury some of their stem, what actually happens is new roots will grow off of these little hairs on the stem. So basically it'll give the plant a much more robust and healthy root system. So I picked off, I'll show you again, I picked off the seed leaves here just to stimulate a little bit of that root growth. And now I'm ready to plant it. So I've got my deep hole, and it's as easy as gently taking the plant out of the pot. Now whenever I'm taking something out of a pot, I never touch the stem. The stem is very gentle. I can touch the leaves or the root ball, but not the stem. Alright, so I'm going to plant the tomato plant so that this first set of true leaves is just above the soil line. So that when I push the soil back around, you can see that first true leaf is about 1 inch above the soil. I don't want to bury that leaf or have it getting really dirty, because then that can spread disease to the plant. So you want to keep it up off the soil, but again nice and deep so that all those little root hairs can develop from the old stem. And then put my little label there so I know which kind of tomato we've got. And we'll water it really good. And then when the soil warms up a little more, I'll put some straw around here just to keep rain from splashing the soil and splashing up on the tomatoes and spreading diseases. But that's about it for the tomato. So last step is to put the tomato cage or whatever you're going to use to stake up the tomatoes. So most tomatoes need something to climb on. These are indeterminate tomatoes. They are going to get pretty tall, and if we let them just flop around on the ground, the tomatoes will get rotten and eaten by bugs and snails and stuff. We don't want that. So I'm just putting my tomato cage around the tomato. I have all my drip irrigation in place, so it's all ready to go, and I can put this in there. And it's good to do it right away, because once the roots of the tomato develop, they're not going to want to be disturbed. They don't want to get poked by trellises and metal cages. So if you're going to stake your tomatoes or use a trellis, do it right away.
Hey guys, so in this bed we're also planting some peppers. This is a sweet pepper here. What we're going to do is actually our seedlings can be planted a little bit closer together, about 1 foot apart. we want the hole to be just deep enough to where our root ball fits in nicely. And unlike the peppers here, we're not going
Tomatoes.
or the tomatoes, we're going to we're not going to cover the stem. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our little root ball in our hole here, and then we're going to just surround it with soil and cover it up like that, and that is it.
Alright guys, and here is our finished planted bed. So it doesn't look like much now, but these plants are all going to get quite big. We have our peppers, and we have tomatoes, and we have some basil and calendula planted in this bed, and even a little bit of garlic on the corners. So if you go out and buy yourself a jalapeno plant, it'll look something like this. And if you plant that this week, and then maybe plant some pumpkins next week, then in the fall, you'll be able to make the recipe that Susie's going to share with us. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Happy planting.